Hi. You're allowed to say hi back. Last session, last day. First off, I think we owe Peter and Toon and the entire team a great round of applause. This is truly an amazing event. So wanted to thank them for that. Absolutely. My name is Doug Zanger. I am the North America editor-at-large for The Drum, a publication that has a heritage in Glasgow, Scotland, and we have been around since 1984. I am based in the town below us, the one you like to pat on the top of its head, Portland, Oregon. Oh, hey, no one's booing. Good. Thank goodness. But I'm super happy to be here and happy to represent The Drum. We do believe very firmly that marketing can change the world, and this topic today is very germane to the idea that we can make great change together. I'd like to just start by letting you guys introduce yourselves, because I would do a woeful job of introducing you. So please, let's start here and introduce yourself and tell us why you're excited to be here too.
Sure. So Scott Stanchak, I'm the managing director of mobile marketing strategy, beta and off-platform for the New York Times. These really are the three key areas for the company right now. Mobile is where about 3 in 5 people are just consuming our content on a regular basis. Beta is our cooking product, our crossword product, kind of these funnel niche feeders into what the core news product is. And then off-platform is really this interesting area of the company where our content's being distributed on Apple News, Facebook Instant, Apple News, and figuring out ways to how to monetize that and get that audience back to our own platform. Previous to the New York Times, I led mobile marketing and product strategy for Avis Budget Group. So between car rentals and newspapers, I've worked in some pretty challenging industries.
Yeah, no doubt. Ian.
Yeah, so I'm Ian Sefferman, General Manager of Toon Marketing Console here at Toon. So I'm in charge of our attribution analytics product, our in-app marketing product, our App Store analytics, and our business intelligence product. I came to Toon via the acquisition of Mobile Dev HQ, where I started that company working on App Store optimization. And prior to that, spent some time working in some of the marketing technology work that Amazon does as an engineer.
Hi, I'm Aashir Shroff. I am in charge of mobile and app strategy for Wells Fargo. For the folks that don't know, Wells Fargo is one of the leading banks in the U.S. We've got about 18 million customers on our mobile website and applications. Top 100 app in both app stores, and actually, I found out we're top 10 in the Windows App Store. No one else probably launched a Windows app, but that claim to fame this week.
We have a Windows product as well.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Did we beat you this week?
Probably.
Oh, geez.
We just launched it
We're all
last week,
friends
so.
up here. Let's start with this, because there's so much spiraling around right now, and there's a lot of clutter, there's a lot of noise. What are a couple of things that are most important to know right now? And sort of the lens I want you to look through is what you're finding in your day-to-day that you think is important for people to know about the space. So, Aashir, I'd like to start with you on this one.
Yeah, I mean, so, again, I've been in the industry for roughly about 10 years actually more than that, focused on mobile. I think, one of the things that I see constantly is there's a lot of change happening. And so as I look at it, being dynamic and being able to meet the customer's needs, whether it's on mobile or it's in Messenger or it's, wherever they may be, is a very big thing. And then also understanding the customer landscape and how they want to interact, what they want to do, simplifying their life. I mean, again, I think there was some great conversation this morning from the Forrester individual, I think Jennifer. She was talking about, mobile moments. Really, that's what it is. It's about solving needs really quickly for customers so that they don't have to spend their whole time focusing on those things.
Right. And you talk about acquisition, and you also have existing customers, so that's sort of a unique thing for especially for banking, especially for Wells Fargo.
Yeah, I mean, so again, today we grow our audience mostly through converting existing customers, moving them from digital to mobile, and again, I think what we really think is interesting is just, there's so much opportunity to continue to grow the base, and we're just looking at how do we meet those customer needs to fit the them with the right solution. And whether it's through an app or whether through its mobile website, I think that you're drawing on some of the things that I brought up earlier, right? So most of what's really interesting for us is the mobile app actually serves for existing customers very well, but the mobile web for us has actually been the place where 80% of our traffic comes from prospects that, and that's where they're coming through. They're coming through third-party search engines, coming to us, and how do we leverage that, and how do we turn them into customers, and then get them to download the app.
Yeah. Ian and Scott, you both have strong opinions on both universal links and instant apps. We'll start with Scott.
Yeah.
He's from New York. He's our guest, Ian.
Yeah. New Yorkers always have strong opinions.
Okay, fair point. All right, so talk a little bit about your point of view on that.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talked about this, the volume that's coming through on mobile web. I mean, I think the convergence of mobile web and apps, we're starting to see it a lot more predominant in the actual industry. You have deep linking, which is becoming easier to do, universal linking, which is converging, clicking on a link and taking you directly into the app, taking you to a specific page. We're seeing instant apps where portions of apps are being downloaded and you can actually interact with them through that technology. And even attribution, which is what Tune is doing. App attribution used to be so difficult. And so I think we're getting to a place now where mobile web, and eventually I think we'll see this across the board, where mobile is just digital, mobile and web are the same thing.
Right.
We're going to say the same thing with the breakout of what mobile is with apps and mobile web. And I think we're starting to see it even more later on this year when we see Apple Pay come to mobile web, when we see Google come out with their one-click solution. Those are things that are bringing the best of the app space, and they're taking the best of the app space, which is clicking your thumb on and holding it over the home screen button, and all of a sudden, boom, you've just checked out, and that's conversion. It's not having to fill in all these fields. So I think it's now getting to the place where we're seeing things that are working on the web, things that are working in mobile web,
right,
where they're saying, all right, let's figure out how to get this into the app world, and eventually it'll just be one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally spot on. But drawing back to yesterday, I think one of my big takeaways personally from Ray Kurzweil was exponential thinking is really hard. And it's true, but we live in this world where things are moving exponentially and moving really fast. And we started out, it took a long time for the app ecosystem to really actually hit. We talked about this is the year of mobile for a decade
and a half.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it actually was.
Right.
And now we're like, oh, but this web thing, it's still a big deal.
It's a thing.
People care about it. A lot of traffic is driven to it. How do we actually merge these together? And I think what we're going to see is that sort of exponential growth is going to bring those together really, really quickly as well.
So that's very exciting, but also the cautionary tale of this are the traps, quite honestly, and there are plenty of them. There's a tremendous amount of opportunity, but also traps. And I want to start with you because you have a strong opinion about you can be too early on things, right?
Yeah. No, you absolutely can be too early. I'm one of the things that I feel is really early, which our MC John will disagree with me with, is bots and messaging, right? And
Discord, we like it.
Yeah. So I believe that we are fundamentally changing how people and consumers interact with computing, but I don't think that with the bots and voice as well, Alexas and Siris of the world, that we've nailed that yet. Mm-hmm. And again, actually, Ray talked about this too yesterday, right? It's like people would talk to their computers and oh, it's not good enough. Oh, it's not good enough. Oh, it's not good enough. But we've had voice forever. I think we are a little bit early, and you do have to take some caution to make sure that where you're placing your bets is going to pay off in both the short and the long term. That's
right.
a hard problem to tackle.
I'll actually plus one Ian on this
cosign.
one, because I really feel like there's a lot of there's still a lot of unknown, especially for adopting bots, which I think we've heard so much about it. We see companies like Facebook and Google and everybody getting more involved in it. But for companies, we don't know yet how we're going to be able to monetize it. And that's a big thing. Yes, we want our content distributed elsewhere, but I want to also make money off that. And we don't know. And sometimes there's a challenge with being an early adopter. There's cost with being an early adopter. Think about the first TV companies that were early adopters to 3D TV. Right? 3D TV, everyone thought it could be the future, but the hardware itself was so expensive. It's the same thing we're seeing, I think, with even VR today. VR is such and AR is such a powerful platform, but I think what you're seeing today with AR, why it's adopted so easily, is because you're using one device. VR, you have to go out and actually purchase a separate device or get your hands on a separate device to do it. And until we actually get to a place where adoption there and it's easily, readily available, like AR technology with a Say game is available, it's going to be a lot of challenges. But I think how it ties into bots is the same thing. Until we see what it evolves to, sometimes there's these big costs with being that early adopter to it.
Now, the balance here is don't wait too long, right?
Well, that's the thing, right? So, I mean, again, we're a large financial institution, and we, have a little more disposable money to try out things. But I think that there is a big benefit to, one, dabbling, just, seeing how the technology works. And especially as, again, things have been said, that, the scale of things that are moving, the cost going down, dabbling doesn't take a lot. I mean, a hackathon with a couple developers and, a couple APIs, you can start to build some really interesting stuff. The other thing is to pair that against, going back to the customer or who you think the potential customer is of these things that you're building, and not just simply building a chat bot to, do something, and without ever considering where the end use case is. And so it's dabbling with that kind of customer focus.
It's test and learn, right?
Yeah,
It's figuring out what resources you have available, the effort at which it's going to be put out for, and the costs involved. And I mean, look, we're as the New York Times, we want our content distributed on every single platform wherever you want to actually consume content. It's just a matter of then figuring out what value we're providing in that platform to then ultimately monetize you. I mean, you're in the banking industry, it's completely different.
Yeah, I mean, you got to set aside.
But it is a test and learn type of thing. It's how much are you going to invest in it?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the app economy. There's talk about its demise. There's talk about its robustness. I don't think that's actually a word, but I'm going to throw it out there. Let's start with Ian. What is your view on the state of the app economy?
Yeah, I mean, I think the app economy is super strong. Tune obviously released that data yesterday that showed no people actually are continuing to download apps, and we see that in everything that we do. But I think what we're really seeing is that convergence is taking place, and people are caring about how do they get the content that they want the fastest. Fundamentally, consumers want to access the content that they want to access as fast as possible and as easy as possible. And that's where I think the app economy is just sort of shifting. Right. It's not dying by any means. It's just shifting. And the platform owners want this too. If you're Apple, if you're Google, and you're developing iOS or Android, your goal is to provide the best consumer experience possible. And part of that is giving them the content that they want as fast as they can get it and as great as they can get it. And so I think for marketers, the takeaway is how do we leverage the app and web converging to both bring the mobile web up and keep the app economy really, really strong and healthy.
Aashir.
Yeah, no, I mean, I sort of agree, right? I think that it's not dead, but it's definitely morphing, right? It's, and again, it goes back to this fluidity, right, between mobile web and apps, right? Oftentimes, the reason you built apps 3-4 years ago is because that's what everyone said you needed to do. That was your mobile strategy. It was, right. What am I going to do? I'm going to build an app, right? Not everyone needs an app, right? And so, thinking about the use cases and what they're for, I mean, I think the instant app stuff it's awesome. I mean, it can unlock a lot of niche use cases really quickly, right? I mean, customers don't care whether it's mobile web or app, just as long as the experience is wonderful and it wows them and it solves their problems, right? And if you have to do it through the app, do it through the app. If you have to do it through the web, do it through the web. But just make sure you're doing it right.
Well, one of the arguments is about competition, and you have strong thoughts on competition as well.
I don't think the app economy is dead. I think it's just mature now, right? and so I look at it from a couple years ago, and you see very few apps in the App Store, and few being a couple thousand, maybe 100,000, and a lot of devices to spread those out on. Now you see a lot of devices and a lot of apps, and that starts to become a big challenge. Then that starts to get into discoverability in the App Store, which is also a major issue. I mean, we're a company as the New York Times. We have big brand awareness, so we can use our own channels to promote app downloads. I'm sure it's the same with Wells Fargo. You can push the people who are in the banks or are on your mobile website. So you already have this big base there, but what about the new consumers who are searching for news in the App Store and the placement isn't very strong? I think things that Google is doing with paid search in the App Store and what Apple's going to roll out later this year with paid search in the App Store, that's going to start to make a difference, but there's still an uphill battle because so many people are finding apps in that manner.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, like I think if you merge those two conversations of instant apps where all of a sudden you don't really have an install anymore, but you have this native-like experience with we need better discovery of what's going on within an app, you're looking at like, wow, search is really morphing, and how do the app stores continue to really hold value if like the concept of an install matters less because you're just seeing a piece of the content that you care about, and you can get the content that you need within the, like you can find the content, you can discover the content that you want within the app from outside sources, whether that's a search engine or whatever. All of a sudden, like you see these things come into play, and I think that's where universal links, app links, whichever one, as well as instant apps sort of all merge into this future of app and web converging.
I want to talk a little bit, Aashir, you'd mentioned dabbling. Everybody likes a good dabble. Talk about your point of view on experimentation and dabbling and doing it in smart ways.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think from any size organization, whether it's a 10-person startup to a 300,000-person financial institution, I think that there's got to be some level or some tolerance to push the needle, experiment, try different ways to connect with your customers. It's not putting all the eggs in one basket sort of thing. It's small percentage of your budget should be allocated to this, right? And thinking through ways that you're just going to better the experience. I think even going back to this kind of app economy model, right? I've talked to and advised a lot of smaller startups, how are you going to get traction and discoverability in the App Store? And the chances are it's going to be very difficult, without paying for and, buying users. And so, look towards the other opportunities. Messenger has, abilities to connect in. Alexa has opportunities to connect in. There's a lot of new platforms that have customer bases that are growing and, that were the app economy, 5 years ago or 4 years ago. And so there are new places for newer companies, newer startups to get their feet wet, get a customer base that, really is engaged by this and really start to grow upon that. And I think that is one of the ways to successfully dabble.
Scott, testing wasn't always the thing for you, but now it is.
I mean, testing was always a thing for me. It just was the challenges of actually accomplishing it internally.
Right.
And when I first started at the New York Times, I mean, we didn't do app A/B testing for, I want to say about a year. But when I came in and it was at the time, it was 2014, early 2014. The peak of the App Store market was around 2013 for us and seeing the volume that was coming through. So I really focused hard on iOS. Then I started focusing a little bit more on Android just because of the volume of where the subscriptions were coming through. But as traffic continued to increase on mobile web, I knew I had to do something. And we weren't ever testing on mobile web in particular. Yet we have a bunch of different marketing assets. You have the growl, which is basically the piece that tells you how many pieces of content you have left in a month out of 10. You have this subscribe button at the top. You have the gateway after you've consumed your 10 pieces of content. And we weren't doing anything. I said to the team, look, we don't have a solution to do this, but if we can just start optimizing each of these assets and just changing the design or changing the messaging to take it from looking like something that was created in 1998, which is what the Payflow looked like. The Payflow was so bad that people, I think, went to it and just felt like you were taking them to such an unsecure site. Why would they actually pay? And starting to just optimize that was was significant returns on each investment that we made, and it was a long, painful process. But we eventually got to the point where now throughout the company, despite marketing always asking for it, products started asking to do it more. And I think that was one of the ways that you can start to influence other areas in the company. I think as a mobile marketer, in particular, you have to understand product just as much as you understand marketing. There's nuances, there's technology differences, and that's something I've always stressed on the team. And I think by understanding the technology that's available and the nuances of the mobile platform, it was able to build up this relationship with product at the times where they started getting more exciting about testing, and now everybody's testing. It's not as often as I would like, but we all do it.
I want to move on to something. Ian, I want you to start with this one, the hype cycle. And the noise. What, in your opinion, is the hype to avoid? Conversely, what is the hype to embrace at this moment in time?
Yeah, so I think we've hit on a couple of them already, and maybe I'll dive in further. So to embrace, I am all about seeing, if we're talking about dabbling as well, I'm all about seeing what happens with instant apps. I think instant apps is just a fantastic addition to our technology stack. I think it's going to be really, really killer for marketers, for consumers, for the platforms. It's a great way for us to move forward and actually figure out how to have that app-like experience with that merged with that web-like ease of discovery and linking and things like that. On the avoid side, like the voice stuff, I
are such a hater.
I can't get over it.
Such a hater.
I have an Echo, and Alexa is a Spotify speaker. Like that's what it is. And I think, like, don't get me wrong. I think voice, and I think Echo's a great product. But I think voice is just too early. Like there's a lot of potential there. It's just like there's way too much hype going along with it.
Right. It's a joke machine in our house. Yeah. Alexa, tell me a joke.
So I don't have kids yet, but I have nieces who just visited, 10 and 8 years old, and they wanted to hear a Katy Perry song. So I just like screamed out to play Katy Perry, and they were like, "What is this thing?" And then
the song or
the device, and then they were like, "Whoa." And like they went into the kitchen and like they were trying to figure out where it came from. And then they were like, Alexa, tell me a joke. And I was like, how did you know to go there? Like,
I know,
how did
right?
it become a joke thing right away?
Right. At least my son's not saying, Alexa, tell us what Dad's bank account balance is. Aashir.
Yeah, so...
Everybody get ready to drink. I'm about to say Pokemon Go. No, but in all seriousness, one to embrace, in your opinion, is AR.
Yeah, I mean, I think AR and VR, I mean, again, I kind of got a longer horizon, 3 to 5 years, right? So I think it's, now it's starting to peak out. We did some really interesting stuff with AR about 2 years ago with the company Mateo, and, it was very interesting how customers, and especially actually for that segment, it was for kids, were engaged and just fell in love with it, like turning our little pony that we hand out during the Christmas time into, this animated pony that they could color, and then they could, and people actually really enjoyed it. But it kind of went off to the, AR died out for a little while again, and then, with Pokemon Go coming out, I think there's that resurgence. I mean, at least I see my email box. I got like 5 emails about AR while I was at this conference. Hey, what is this Pokemon Go? Should we, and again, I think it's figuring out what niche you're trying to solve, right? I think, when you think of a bank, we're not a very engaging, we're going to show your balance, we're going to pay your bills, we're going to be, a very functional organization. And I think AR and VR really give us this opportunity to be more than that, right? To be a lifestyle brand, to be engaging. And to be there. And so we've actually done some interesting stuff with VR where we've got, at the booths around the US, our experiential marketing team has the VR setup where you can run around an island and find Wells Fargo drinks and, do these different things. And I tried it, I loved it. It was, it was a little disorienting afterwards, but it was fun. So.
What about to avoid real quick, and we're running up on time here, but just real quickly, what's an avoid for you?
Again, I think it's to just buy into technology for the sake of buying into technology, or someone tells you that this is the way to go, right? That your strategy is not based on any logic. It's just, oh, I got an email from a top person at my company, and they need us to work on this, right? And you should have some rationale. Does it really appeal to the customer segment that you're going for? And so it's rationalizing those things.
Okay. Scott, your big avoid, get ready to drink again.
No, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I saw you all last night. The biggest avoid is hiring people with just web backgrounds and putting them into mobile roles. I think that's some of the biggest challenges that we're seeing with executives across a number of companies. People think mobile is just mobile. And as I said, it's a different technology. It's a different nuance. It's understanding the behavior and the patterns that happen on there and figuring out how to optimize that. There's very few people, and this crowd, obviously, you're here, you know mobile, you understand mobile, but avoid hiring people just for the sake of hiring people. I'd rather hire someone with 3 years of dedicated mobile experience than someone with 6 and putting them in a senior role. The world is mobile today, and I think sometimes people forget that. People think, oh, we can have the web people think about mobile, but they think, oh, mobile is too niche. And really, it's just, you need that expertise where they are.
Right.
In terms of where I'm kind of bullish right now, it's the Apple Pay stuff for mobile web, especially for us as a company that sells something like a digital subscription. I remember I went out to Cupertino to meet with Apple ahead of time to walk through this, and I walked out of the room just being like, I am so excited about this. Like, this is a game changer for the space right now. And we committed to being a launch partner with them. They featured us on stage at WWDC this year. And we continue to iterate and figure out what we can do. We're essentially taking something that is a 6-7 step process, and I can now put a button on the actual article page itself, and that's the checkout process. And we're not the only company that's going to be doing it. There's going to be a lot of companies that are doing it, but figure out the way to get out the door very quickly with this, because this could be the game changer for business today in e-commerce.
We're going to wrap up. You each get to say one sentence. So this is me stalling for time to have you think about it. One actionable thing that people can take away today to improve what they're doing. One actionable thing. And I'm saying more words to let you think. Who wants to go? Aashir, you look like you're ready. It's like a bad game, isn't it?
Again, I think it's where I started. Be dynamic, right? Be dynamic in your strategy. Be dynamic in understanding what your customers want. It's, figuring out how to solve their needs and be there for them, and make that the experience that you're after.
Ian.
Maybe I'll do it in 4 words. Embrace new technologies responsibly.
Yes. Okay, that is 4 words. Okay. Portland thing.
Great marketing can't overcome a bad conversion funnel. And so for marketers out there, you have to invest in the product in itself and figure out the ways. Even the best marketing is not going to overcome a horrible experience where you send people to. So making sure that you're just invested in the product itself, and that frictionless process to get someone from your marketing campaign to clicking checkout is very important. Even if you have the best marketing in the world, you're not going to be able to overcome that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Aashir, Ian, Scott. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. And again, thank you to all of you for being here in Seattle. This is, dirty little secret. I love coming up to Seattle as much as I possibly can. Though you are invited to Portland. If you'd like to, I'm on the app, so reach out to me if you want to plan your Portland vacation. I'm happy to help you with that. But I do want to thank you for spending the time here, and great panelists and a great conversation. And go out and go make kick-ass things. Thank you.
Thank you.